The Great Family by Jerome W. Berryman, illustrated by Lois Mitchell. The Great Family. This is a story that takes place in the desert. The trouble is that a real desert is too big to squeeze into a small book. Sand would spill out everywhere. So we use only a little sand in a beautiful glass box to tell the story. There are also too many people, so we will begin with just a few wooden figures. In the desert, the sand is always moving in the wind, so it's hard to know where you are. The blowing sand stings your face and hands. There's almost no water in the desert, so there's little to eat or drink. In the daytime, the sun scorches your skin, and at night it is cold. People do not go into the desert unless they have to. After the great flood, Noah led all the animals out of the ark. They spread out in all the directions to fill the earth with life again. Some of the people gathered along the rivers. They lived in small villages and then cities. One of the greatest of these cities was Ur, a city near two rivers. The people of Ur believed that there was a god in every tree, rock, or flower. The world was alive with gods. This was a way to say the earth was holy. But God isn't God bigger than that? There was a family in Ur that thought there was one God who was everywhere. This God created everything, so all of God was in every place. Abram and Sarai were part of this family. One day, the family of Abram and Sarai decided they had to go to a new place. They wondered what it would be like. Would God really be there waiting for them? The whole family set out across the desert, even the animals. They slept in tents at night, and during the day, the river showed them the way and gave them water to drink. Finally, they met people coming out from the new place, so they knew their journey was almost over. The family settled in the small city of Haran. They were happy, but sometimes in the evenings, Abram would go out into the desert. He looked across the sand and up into the sky. One time, God came so close to Abram, and Abram came so close to God, that he knew what God wanted him to do. God wanted Abram and Sarah to go to another new place. God blessed Abram to be a blessing. Abram and Sarai went. They said goodbye to their family and set out like God said. This time there was no river to show them where to go or give them water to drink, but they found their way across the sand. One day they came to a place called Shechem. Would God be in this place too? Abram climbed a hill to pray. God was there. So they built an altar to mark the place and moved on. Next they came to Bethel. Abram prayed again, and God was also there. Now they knew that all of God was everywhere. They built another altar and moved on once more. When they came to Hebron, they pitched their tents near the oaks of Mamre and made their home there. One night, Abram went outside the tent and looked up into the sky. God came so close to him, and Abram came so close to God, that he knew what God was saying, even if no one else could hear. You will become the father of a great family, and Sarai would be their mother. There will be as many in this family as there are stars in the sky. That is why you will now be called Abraham and Sarah. Abraham laughed so hard he fell down. Was God joking? How could he and Sarah be the mother and father of a great family when they had no children together of their own and were too old? Sometime later, 3 strangers came out of the desert. Abraham was sitting by his tent. He invited them in, and Sarah mixed 3 measures of flour, which is a lot, to make the bread to welcome them. They said Abraham and Sarah would have a son. Abraham laughed again, and this time Sarah, who was standing nearby, laughed too. The 3 strangers went on their way. But do you know what happened? Abraham and Sarah had a son. They laughed a new laugh. It was a laughter of happiness. Their laughing was not against God anymore. It was with God. So they named their son Laughter, which in their language was the name Isaac. Isaac grew and became strong. But Sarah grew older and became weak. One day she was too weak to go on and died. One of the people who lived nearby offered to give Abraham a place to bury Sarah. But Abraham wanted to pay for the land anyway. Sarah was buried in a warm cave near the oaks of Mamre. Abraham was very lonely. He and Sarah had lived together for many years. It was hard to go on without her, but he had one more thing he had to do. He sent his most trusted helper back to the land of his people to find a wife for Isaac. Abraham's helper crossed the desert and one afternoon stopped by a well. At the end of his journey, Rebekah was there and offered him some water to drink. Then she helped him give water to his animals. Rebekah was as full of courage as she was kind. She invited him home, and he told her family the story of the great family. Rebekah listened carefully to the story and decided that she would like to become part of the great family. She and Abraham's helper returned across the desert. They walked past Shechem and Bethel and finally came to Hebron. Isaac saw them coming and went out to meet them. To everyone's delight, Isaac and Rebekah were married. Abraham was now very old and so full of years that he too died. He was laid beside Sarah in the warm cave by the trees. Isaac and Rebekah had twins, and their children had children, and those children had children. This went on for thousands and thousands of years until your grandmothers and grandfathers had children. Then your mother and father had you. So now you are part of the great family, which is as many children as there are stars in the sky and grains of sand in the desert. And you are also blessed to be a blessing. Now I wonder which part of this story you like the best. I wonder what part is the most important. I wonder where you are in the story, or what part of the story is about you. I wonder if there is any part of the story we can leave out and still have all the story we need.